Welcome to the Teacher's Pep Rally. If you missed our last episode, we had an amazing guest who was certified by Brene Brown to facilitate Dare to Lead trainings. Please go back and check it out. And while you're there, leave us a review. We value you and these conversations. Well, I can't believe it, but it is October again, and that means we get that reminder about cybersecurity awareness. Thanks, Fred. Our guest today worked for EdTEch, where their company provides IT support for schools, in addition to providing experts in EdTech offerings, which are driven by teaching and learning outcomes. Grab your laptop and mouse. Please welcome to the Teacher's Pep Rally, Evelyn McCulloch and Mike Rinyu.
Woo!
Yay! All right, cyber hygiene, Fred, here we go.
Loving it. Let's do it.
So before we dive too deep into this whole cybersecurity thing, Evelyn and Mike, we have a little thing we do at the beginning, just kind of get us started, get us in a certain mindset. Letitia, do you want to explain it and they can maybe participate?
Absolutely. Well, welcome again, Mike and Evelyn. So here at the Teacher's Pep Rally, we've started doing something called Happy Happenings. And it's basically an opportunity for us pretty much while we're going through our week to really highlight the great things that happen in our day-to-day lives, right? So it's an opportunity for us to share among us and then share with our guests just to bring some sunshine and some positivity out there. I think we can all agree it's never enough. So we'll do a little round robin and we'll all share. And if you'd love to share your happy happening, we certainly welcome it. Everybody clear?
Clear.
Yes.
Well, Fred, you are first today.
We know why. Let's hear it.
What is your happy happening?
So I was listening to last week's podcast and I didn't realize I did say I was alluding to this past weekend. So for those that don't know, my oldest daughter got married this weekend and it was a fantastic event. We had such a blast. I mean, it was, like you go through that big planning phase and then you build up to the weekend. And I was sharing with everybody, I think the joyful moment, the happy element for me was sitting back, first of all, as the dad of the bride. Now I'm in the house with all the ladies. That is my first, I'm usually on the other side, right? The groomsmen or, in that phase, and totally different. So Michael, totally, Pete, totally different, right? We just hang out. We throw a tux on, we hang out. That's it. For the ladies, getting the hair done at 7 a.m. and then gathering for photos while they're still getting their nails done, photos after they're dressed, and then everything else, and the exchanging gifts. It was just like this. It was this nonstop chaos. But what really struck me at one moment was, you as a dad, you always wonder about your children and who they interact with. You always think about that over time, whether they're little, big, whatever. Mm-hmm. And my daughter has, she's in her late 20s, and she had her friends there from high school in the wedding party. She had her college friends there from her graduate school friends, and her professional friends, and they were all together. And I couldn't help but get the sense that they were just great friends. And they all looked out for you. There was no cattiness at all going on, which was kind of fun to see for a change. But it was just really good. And it gave me a really happy moment for me to think about, wow, this is how I would want her to have done it. But you really don't know, right? And still, there's plenty of life left. Things get crazy. But this past weekend, that was so fun to watch. And the same thing for my now son-in-law. I got to meet, his friends. And I felt like I was looking in a mirror in a way that I saw his friends as my friends were. And it was a good feeling as a dad and all the chaos. And the other thing really quick too, one of the things we were talking about on Sunday, we're all trying to gather photos, and I really haven't posted that much on Instagram or anything yet, but I will. But we really didn't have our phones in our hands. Like through the whole thing, like they were either put away or still, because we were we were the party. And granted, there were photos being taken, but I didn't have mine. And it was such a nice relief,
right?
Not having to do this all the time. And I'm a techie. So it was one of those moments where it was like, but I didn't miss it at all. Not because I was around great points. So that was my happy happenings. It was just a joyful weekend. We had perfect October weather in the high 60s, sunny. gold leaves, brown leaves, orange leaves everywhere, riding trolleys. I got to ring the bell on the trolley. That was a moment right there. So it was just a really, really good day. So that was cool.
Great.
Thank you for sharing. That was awesome. When you sent us that picture and I saw you walking her down the aisle, I got all teary eyed. I was like, he's a girl, Dad.
Oh yeah, it was something.
That was awesome. That's
a moment I will never forget that moment. No.
Thank you so much, Fred, for sharing. Erin, your happy happening this week.
So mine's going to be real short, sweet, and nerdy, which is me. The Rings of Power. I finally have had a chance to sit down and start watching it. I am like The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings book series, and Mike is shaking.
Yes.
It's been something I love, and I think I was a little afraid to start it because I thought, oh, what if this doesn't go? I am all in. I am all in, and when I can find time and sneak a little bit, in fact, I watched a little bit before recording this episode. I just am loving it.
It's good. It's visually beautiful, isn't it? Yeah.
It's stunning.
Very much,
Yeah. Characters are great. The music's great. I'm just having such a great time.
And they just wrapped up a season, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. What episode are you on, Erin?
I am on episode 4, halfway through.
Okay. I'll wait till you. Oh yeah.
Oh, just wait. Yeah.
Just wait.
I see you have a little group here. You have some supporters here.
Yes.
And I love it. And Erin, I know that downtime has become really something very important to you. So whenever you share your nerdy moments, it makes me happy as well. So thank you, honey, for sharing. Pete.
Yeah. My family, I'm from Jersey, New York area, and my family, my father has been in the hospital for quite a while now, a number of weeks. And we got the green light. He's going to be going to rehab this Friday. So, that's it. I'll take it. That's good. Happy,
Absolutely.
and let's keep it going.
Absolutely. Happy happening on a health
it's hard
note.
when you're
I
away
love
from
that.
family. It's hard,
Yeah.
you want to, you feel guilty and you deal a lot of stuff and you want to be there to help. But at the same time, you're juggling everything here. They know we're there. They know we care, but good. We'll take it. Good news. And let's keep moving forward with it.
Good.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing that. So my happy happening for our guests and our listeners, we all have side hustles. And so I'm included in that. And I am so excited because this week I have actually 3 people that have joined my team. So I am no longer a one-woman show. And I mean, having these young, first of all, they're young and vibrant and excited to help. And it really just encouraged me. And then right in time for our Courage to Lead guests. So setting the business foundation based on that. But I was just happy to have help. Marketing, I'll take it. Administrative, I'll take it. So that is my happy happening. Business growth there. Business growth.
That's excellent.
So yes, I am super excited. So Mike or Evelyn, which of you would like to share? We look forward to hearing from you if so.
I'll go ahead and jump in. That's fine. My happy happening is this Friday. We're doing a trunk or treat with my 2 boys. I have Paxton, who's 8, and Callahan, who's 6. And so we've been asked to do trunk or treat at their school. So we're getting decorations and going nuts and just getting all the stuff ready so that we can just blow it out and really have a real fun time handing out candy at their school on Friday. So super stoked about that.
Nice.
I love it. Live every moment, Mike, because
That's right.
They
It's
fly
gonna be
by,
so much
man.
fun. Yeah. I'm soaking it up.
I love it. I love it. Evelyn, do you have a happy happening you'd like to share, dear?
Sure, absolutely. This past weekend, my husband was away on a guy's trip. So I was with my 3 kids, and I have 2 teenage daughters in high school and then a 10-year-old son in 5th grade. So we got a lot of special time this weekend,
Awesome.
going out to eat and getting ready for Halloween. And it's just really special, because Mike and I get to invest in a lot of students and teachers, and then we get to invest in our own kids and build those memories. That's really so special. So we had a great past weekend.
Awesome.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing. And that balance between all that we pour out right to others and then to be able to come home and fill up. that is certainly something to highlight in a happy happening. Well, to all of our listeners, we really want to encourage you to maybe incorporate happy happenings in your life. Take a few moments to just share with one another the good things that are going on. And I think it strengthens us for those times that are challenging. Well, we won't belabor anymore. Erin, take it away. Let's get started.
Yeah, I'm excited. Let's talk about cybersecurity. So, Evelyn, do you want to tell us a little bit about what you and Mike and the people at EdTEch do and how you support schools with educational technology?
Absolutely. EdTEch was founded about 25 years ago here in Central Florida in Orlando. And over the last 2.5 years, a more official division was founded, an EdTech division, where specifically it's focused.
Oh, we have a little delay, but that's okay.
I thought it was me.
Connected with the team, and then taught online during COVID. And then we decided we just loved pouring that out to other schools. So we really started with just this premise of we wanted to become the mission of every school that we serve. And we wanted to really get ingrained in the fabric and the culture of that school. So we have been super blessed. We've grown a lot over the last 2.5 years with our EdTech team. And we service several schools here in Orlando and some out in the Tampa area and then down in Miami. And I really had a dream about bringing someone like Mike on board. And I really say that Mike kind of fell from heaven to our team. And Mike has been in the classroom the last 15 years. So we have a similar background of how long we've served in education. And we actually got connected on LinkedIn, and specifically his profile had a lot about project-based learning, which was a passion. And so we had an interview first over Zoom, just like this. And in 10 seconds, I said, it's him. He's the one to join our team. So Mike has poured himself out as we serve our schools with coaching and professional development and support them with technology. So that's a little background about EdTech. And there's 40 of us that are part of EdTech.
Wow.
Some serve our schools specifically, and then some serve all of our clients. So
yeah, and I think we're going to dive really deep into all the different things that you just mentioned that you all do. But Mike, you were talking about Halloween earlier, so I think I'm gonna ask you this. Since it is Cybersecurity Awareness Month, we want to kind of highlight its importance, and part of that is the scary factor. Do you think that you could just kind of share with us some trends? And Evelyn, happy to hop in as well. What are some of the scary trends we are seeing specifically at schools, universities, in regards to maybe lack of protection or, information is being disclosed that we don't want to get out there? There's even some hijacking or asking for some kind of ransom, right? If by holding things. So what are some of the things, just to kind of give our listeners an idea? We don't want to get everyone too scared, but we need to be realistic about
Yeah, absolutely.
What's out there, what's happening, and why this is important.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest from the scare factor side is that it's, I would think, because I know, like, when I was in the classroom just a short couple of months ago, I would look at stuff like that as they would be attacking the systems themselves or going in, when really a lot of the attacks and a lot of the breaches end up happening through individual end users, like through the teachers, through the administrators, especially. That's where we see a lot of successful attacks, is, just kind of the classic, like, phishing schemes and sending emails that seem really important and click on this link and, your Google Drive is going to be shut down or whatever it is, those kind of things. Cause, like, we're teachers, which means that when are we checking email? In between classes, when we have 5 minutes, or when we're walking down to do, cafeteria duty or whatever, which means that, like, our minds are on 10 different things. And so sometimes some of these emails that normally we would probably look at and go, this is ridiculous, or this, doesn't something seems weird here, I'm going to go ahead and call somebody or whatever. We look at it and we're just like, oh, okay, I'll do this, and click, and then there you go. And I think that's the scariest thing, is to really realize that it's those individual attacks that have the highest number of success rates as far as them breaching. And just to be aware of that and to be really, really, really mindful of that as a teacher.
Yeah. Right.
And I think you bring up a good point, Mike, because that is very true, right? We're like doing 1,000 things and clearing emails. You just want to clear them because you don't want an administrator getting on you, right? And so one of the things I used to practice and I used to really promote to my team when I was team lead is designate a time during your day where you're just going to focus on emails.
Yeah.
Right. Don't try to do it in between. Right. So if it's, after the last bus leaves, you're going to take the last 30 minutes of your workday at the schoolhouse just to clear emails, just because I know that definitely, to your point, Mike, can get us in a lot of trouble. So designating a time for emails may be a great way to avoid some of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a great, Mike, in terms of the phishing, that's something that I've been kind of really driving home with my students this past month, and within the Get Me Coding community. And, we all have that certain baseline skill sets, right? Oh, if it has grammar error or spelling errors, or if it has a hyperlink, just take your mouse and hover over it. But the thing that I became more aware of this past month was the masking of the URLs now. So,
they're getting better.
Not as simple. Yeah, they are getting far better.
Yeah.
But what was really disturbing, and this is a question I would have for you, and I know that we didn't put this beforehand, but so in doing my work, I teach a cybersecurity class. So one of the things that I was talking to my students when I was doing the research for the class, because these are the freshmen, and we're just kind of like wading in. But the one thing though was finding a website where the software was freely available. Now this website was also a traditional, I want to say reputable, but Geek's website. You could download the tool that masks the URLs. So I was looking at that, and I read through the steps. What bothered me in the steps, and I'll get to my question, was they used the word victim. So, in step 1, download the software. Step 2, set it up, configure it. Step 3, target your victim, and then blah, 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 go on.
Wow.
So my question is, how do you feel about seeing those kind of resources out there on the web? Is it a good thing because we're learning that it's out there, or is it something that's enabling people?
Man, I think like with most things in technology, it's a double-edged sword, right? That's just kind of my initial feeling on it. Is everything is double-edged, it's every tool and every piece of information that we get teaches us, but it also teaches the people that are trying to do nefarious things. So it is a double-edged sword. And really all you can try to do is just be mindful and stay a step ahead. It's hard to stay a step ahead though. I mean, Evelyn knows I got my social media hacked at one of our conferences myself because of the exact thing that we were talking about. It came through a message and I was on my way from one session that I was working on to somebody else's session that I was going to go help with. And while I was talking to a teacher and I looked at something and clicked it and then was like, oh, there we go. And as soon as I did it, I was like, that was probably not a really smart thing to do for me.
It's that moment right after it. It's like,
yeah, it was immediate. It was immediate. I was like, that was not a good idea, but it just, it's hard because, you slack one time, and that's, I think that's part of it too, is that the people who are doing it, they know that they're going to be unsuccessful 10, 20, 30, 40, 100, 1,000 times. But it doesn't matter because all they need is one, right? They need one breach to work. I can be on my, and that's, I think if you want to get scary, that's the scariest part, right? Is that I can be on my A game 99 times. And one time I got a little lazy. I hadn't had my coffee yet, whatever it is. It's like, oops, I did that. And there you go. And I think that's really the scary part, which, I love what Letitia said that, setting a time, setting some time aside, like I'm just not even going to look at my phone. I'm not going to look at my email only during these specific times. Like that's a really good strategy. Yeah, I don't know. Evelyn, do you have anything else on that as far as like those resources being out there? Like that's a tough one because I feel like it's very double-edged.
Yeah, I love what you brought up, Fred, and then the items you shared, Mike. Some of the things that we're doing at our schools is there's a tool called Know Before, and it's a curriculum that all different organizations use around the world, from schools to banks to healthcare. But it's an empowering curriculum, and it does do kind of some sample mock phishing attempts and
Oh.
scams and different things, and it sends it to the users over the course of a couple months, and then they gather and kind of talk about it and unpack it. So I really love that. We have been rolling that out, especially this month at several of our schools. And really just telling the teachers, like, the more you know and the more you know what to expect, then you're going to be safer in those moments of perhaps vulnerability. And we've gotten just a great reception on that. And, you know, their flags are a little bit up now to expect that and what that could look like. So we found that to be a strategy that we're really loving at this time.
That sounds great. And I'm sorry, Fred, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
I was going to say part of what excited me about having you guys on today was I just remember when I was in the classroom and technology was introduced, right? I don't want to date myself too much, but I just don't remember there being really like a holistic approach, which is why I think what you guys are doing is so important. It's like something as simple as, for example, we had one of our former superintendents was like, we need Twitter. Every school, every teacher needs a Twitter account. We need to control our narrative. Let people know what's happening, right? And so everybody's scrambling to get a Twitter. What's this bird about, right? And so no one tells you that it opens you up, right? If your securities are not, you know, like that part, like the behind the scenes. Yeah. And so you have this message, get on Twitter, which I think is good, right? We want to control the narrative. But the education on how to protect yourself is so lacking. And so I'm hoping that you have a great answer for this. Do you think that that's changing? Do you think that as you're out there, schools are really investing in like the holistic part of it, right? The security part.
Good question.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think they are. And I think they're doing both proactive and reactive approaches. So they're putting in place a lot of great tools behind the scenes. Another rock star tool is Huntress. And I don't know if you're all familiar with that, but that really tries to detect a threat and then kind of enclose upon it, kind of like a canary in a coal mine, and isolate that before it can get to the, you know, the entire network of a school. And then other tools for even filtering and for mobile device management and things like that. And a lot of the teachers don't really even know about those things because they're happening kind of behind the scenes, but they're protecting there. And then on the front lines, giving them professional development, giving them coaching, making them part of the process and letting them know that we're taking it really seriously. Because what really impressed upon me is that all of our data is stored together. So on the student information system or on the learning management system, if one user gets breached, then all that data is accessible for the whole organization. So it's an incredible responsibility, but to kind of bind together, to be like, we've got to work together because all of our data is available. So every user, if we can empower every user, we're stronger together. So I think it has changed, and people are really trying to make a focus on cybersecurity. And there's more data than ever available, you know, as we have taken everything digital, from our ebooks to all of our courses and all of our materials. It's all in there. So it's great to see it. Everyone really taking it just precautionary and being serious about the approach to cybersecurity.
It's got to be an exciting challenge because, you know, this is not going anywhere. It's I feel like again, is that double-edged sword. Like it can cause some grief and some issues, but at the same time, you know, it can also make learning more engaging sometimes, more interactive, worldly connections, you know, connecting to classrooms across the world because of it. And on top of that, you've got educators, teachers who have different comfort levels or knowledge about the use of the technology. So before we kind of move on to thinking more about how we can train ourselves as educators to just determine what are the best steps for us individually, the cybersecurity stuff, you all had done a kind of do's and don'ts list. And I think no matter where anyone is level-wise, that's always great. And our listeners love lists. So do you mind one of you giving us like kind of a do's and don'ts?
Yeah, absolutely. We did kind of prepare for this one too, so that we had it laid out, and we even consulted with the president of EdTEch, because he's our like ultimate cybersecurity expert. So if he ends up
cheated.
listening to this,
Nice.
Dan stopped
We
it.
cheated.
I think we call that collaboration, Mike. It's okay.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. That's
It
right.
is.
Collaborate.
That's another double-edged sword. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Mike, do you want to read some and then I'll pick up after you, or how do you want to approach it?
Yeah, sure. I think like, one of the big ones on there is always be suspicious, of unknown, if you don't know where something came from, you get something that has like a warning on it, that has some kind of like an alert message. Always be wary of alert messages.
Mike, real
think,
quick,
especially
I don't. Yeah, I'm sorry. I was going to say real quick, because I was thinking this before, and this might be a good way to insert it. I'm also noticing a lot of emails come in educators that seem too good to be true, especially when it's like
Yes.
Teacher Appreciation Week, that email
Oh,
like
yeah.
it's Starbucks, here's $5 gift card for
Yes.
being an amazing teacher. Like,
Yeah.
Social
that's
engineering.
not
yeah.
happening. It'd be
Yeah.
I would have
great.
been,
Yeah,
I would have been
no, that's a
clicking
good-
that one.
Yeah, and I guess alert, when I say alert emails, I think we think like negative, like, oh, this bad thing is going to happen, but like kind of alert, like in both sides of that, good or bad. Yeah, like too good to be true,
Yeah.
or something that's like setting off red flags, like either one of those, like be really, really, really weary.
Yeah.
And I think like one of the easiest things, like even phone calls, like we still get them, those ones where it's like, oh, this is, American Airline, and we're calling, because you won, lifetime of free flights. And you're like, no, I didn't. But, like, I think, anytime that you're not sure of something, look up the party that says they're doing it on your own and email them or phone call, give them a phone call, whatever. Anytime my bank calls, I do that. Like if I'm not sure, normally you can tell, but if you are one of the people that are not as comfortable with technology and you're just like not sure, hang up the phone or delete the email and call the company and say like, hey, this is what I got. Did you send me this? Call them directly or email them directly. So I think that's a big one that you can do, especially if you're not super comfortable. But just always be suspicious. Always be suspicious. I think like that's still one of those like online things that we're still adjusting to as the world moves on, where if I was on the street and somebody walked up and just said like, hey, I want to give you $100,000, like I'd be you're looking around and you're going, all right, what's going on? But people fall for it online easier for some reason. And I think we just, we need to have the same kind of attitude that we would in the real world.
There's some, and going back to the phishing. So I think everyone here would appreciate this. There's good research now surfacing about those emails or those, the way they're phrased, like the poor grammar or the poor spelling. It's intentional, because when somebody does click those malformed ones, they're more of a sucker. I don't know what to say. It's not the right phrase, but it's
Lollipop.
but then all of a sudden that sender shares it with their wolf pack. And then now more come in on top of that person, and then it kind of circles back out. So it is kind of weird, right? So it's all of these. Yeah, it's that suspicious. That's a great tip. Just be suspicious and then report it, right? I mean, that's the
and report it too. That's another big one. Evelyn, what do you got?
Sure. Another one that we wanted to advise is inside those emails with link clicking. And then also if there's an attachment, unless you're expecting that attachment, be very, very careful with attachments. We also have on our list, do set up multi-factor authentication or two-factor on every account that you have. So if you're using something like Google Authenticator or Duo, all of those things are crucial, and whether your school district requires it yet, they may soon will. But it's a very wise thing to do, and more EdTech companies and SISs and LMSs are going that way. So definitely advise with multi-factor, two-factor. Also, we would also say, be careful in the early morning. We wanted to kind of advise that when you're on your way to school and you're in a rush.
That coffee. Yeah.
Yeah, that's often when you will receive something like that, because you're less likely to be focused and vigilant on what that is. Kind of back to Letitia's great advice. And then ultimately, I think that one of the best things we can say too is when in doubt, as Mike said, do your triple checking of other sources. So if you received a phone call, check online by logging into your actual source, or the reversal. If you get something digitally, then make that phone call to check. So those are kind of, we tried to include some things that would be maybe more common, and then other things to kind of help you ponder and think about it.
Those are good. Those are great tips, actually. That one about the not calling too. So the best story is my father-in-law. He's very senior. He calls the number in the email instead of calling the actual email or the number on the bank statement or the credit card statement. And it's nonstop. We could tell him time and time again, don't call the number in the email. And he calls it anyway. Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I love the way you said very senior, Fred.
He's very I love him, he's senior.
I know I'm not from EdTEch, but I'm going to jump in and share my favorite tip because I have it up. Do use hard to guess passwords or phrases. The phrases is what got me.
Yes.
I think that is excellent for someone like me that is always having a challenge with coming up with the password, but the phrases, oh yeah.
Yeah. That's a great one. That's a great one. Doing like most of my passwords are like sentences, like full sentences, where that's so much harder. That's a great one.
And it's easier for us. I feel like it's easier for me to remember that versus
Absolutely.
word with a bunch.
I can't do all the
symbols and all of this.
Yeah.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Well, hopefully we didn't scare people too much on the cybersecurity stuff, but now I want to get a little bit more into something that I am passionate about. And it's, for me, I think about it as a strategic thinking idea, even partly a mission. So I work a lot with schools on that and with some other companies outside of schools. So you at EdTEch have this instructional coaching cycle for schools. And I can't wait to really hear more about it, especially because it sounds like you help schools who want or need to build some kind of technology initiative. And that's where, in my mind, it's like setting a goal and your strategic plan for. So let's nerd out a little bit. Tell me about it.
Sure, absolutely. So kind of by design to truly become part of the mission of each school, we have an EdTech partnership plan. So when we onboard a school, we first start with an EdTech assessment so we can learn all about them, everything from their curriculum to workflow and productivity to all the IT pieces to their programming and scheduling, how they approach projects and pedagogy. And we write them an assessment that then leads to a technology strategic plan. Or if they already have one, we help them update it. And then that kind of becomes the roadmap for how the coaching and the professional development and all of the pieces roll from there. And it's really important to us that all of the stakeholders are part of the assessment and also part of the plan so that they feel it's their voice and it's their vision. And we have found that to be a really beautiful part of the schools that we serve. And with that, that Mike and I, we spend a good bit of our days in the coaching. So Mike, can you share a little bit about how we approach coaching and kind of our methods and frameworks with that?
Yeah, sure. So we have a number of schools that we deal with, and we send out monthly coaching calendars. So I work on our schedule and figure out kind of like where we're going to go, what days, how many hours they have, that kind of thing. And then send that out so that they can sign up for coaching. And that can be all kinds of things. I mean, definitely because it's a tech company, it's, there's a lot of focus on EdTech tools and on that side of things, but also just the pedagogy that supports that. I think we're realizing more and more that all of those things, those frameworks like shift and meld together, and that, you can't have one without the other. And that, having a really, souped up network that runs really well and people that know how to use Google tools and stuff doesn't matter if the pedagogy is not there. And then the pedagogical frameworks that you can do and all of the learning that you can do, if they don't have tools to then enact that on, also doesn't matter. So it's really like seeing like how those two things like have a union together. But we'll meet teachers during their plan period. We do small group PD, whole group, like larger PLs and stuff. I've even been on some field trips. We'll work on, which is awesome. I mean, that's fun. Co-teaching, we'll come in, I'll model, if there's something that we go over that they're not really sure of, we'll do modeling with them in the classroom. So just kind of, it really runs the gamut.
That's really great. I love that. I love hearing that whole approach to it from I guess in a consultant kind of way. As you start to see, STEM and STEAM become more and more integrated into schools, it obviously creates a different threat surface a little bit, I would think, right? So yeah, you're right. Google tools, using the Office suite, that has its own set of challenges and weaving into, your curriculum. But as we extend out, are you seeing schools, how could I say, leap before they look? In other words, they bring a bunch of kids into the classroom. Oh, go out there and just create accounts over on xyz.com and then we'll play with coding out there. But then xyz.com doesn't have good hygiene and their accounts get hacked. And so that creates, are you sensing any of that happening as we kind of rush for STEM and STEAM?
I personally see a little bit of that. But my world for the past 7 years was strictly project-based learning. And I think when it's done in a really good approach, we're seeing the other side of that come into it as well, of like, how do you do good research? How do you find out that the things that you're using are valid resources? And, because that's that whole child approach to everything. And that I think we're hitting that stride now where we're seeing that technology is not a cutesy tool. It's not just something, it's going to be a very large part of these children's future. Right. No matter what they do, they're going to be using laptops, iPads, or, tablets and phones and, all kinds of systems like those are just, no matter what they do, that's going to be a very, very big part of their daily life. And that's not going away. So I have seen kind of a push to make sure that they are literate when using those. So I have, I mean, do I see the other side of like what you're talking about? Certainly. I see some teachers do it too, where they sign up for something because they think it looks cool. And then all of a sudden it's, causing problems on their computer. And, then they're calling me in and they're going, well, why isn't this working? And it's like, well, where did you get this from? And then I look at the website and I'm like, yeah.
Well, here's a great example. One of our close friends, I won't name him, but those of us in the teacher prep rally community here know him well. He downloaded a sight word app for his students and he installed it on his phone. And it turns out that he didn't know this beforehand, but that sight word app was not something Facebook looked favorably on. He had Facebook open on his cell phone. The app is running on there. It detects Facebook is open. It then hacked his account. And all it was a sight word app. And like, that's the stuff that drives us crazy, right? It's these things. He found all that out afterwards and he's a tech guy. He's one of us, and it just goes. I think that's a really good point.
He didn't have his coffee yet before.
He didn't have his coffee yet. It wasn't, but it's like we're all susceptible to this stuff, and you're right. You have to be on your game, and you have to be very, very suspicious and do the research. That's an excellent point.
That's why I think it's so important, Fred, for that bucket in that strategic plan, like for schools or districts to really think about. Educational technology initiatives have to be in the strategic plan. Like it's just, we're in an era now where that can't be a part of the conversation of constantly checking in, constantly measuring that. So Evelyn, can you maybe give us an example of one of the schools you all have worked with that maybe what that initiative would sound like or look like?
Sure, absolutely. One of our schools that's located in DeLand, Florida, is St. Barnabas Episcopal School. And we've been working with them for about a year. So we started with the EdTech assessment, and they actually had an IT strategic plan at the time when we first onboarded them. And they really said, we would like to turn this document into a combo of an IT and EdTech strategic plan. We want to see more pedagogy infused in this. We want to see more of even our curricular goals align with our technology goals. So we wrote kind of this combo plan together out of the assessment. And one of the things that they identified through that was that they needed a united way to bring all of their tools like a launchpad into one place. So there's a couple of EdTech tools that do that. ClassLink and Clever are two that are probably pretty well known. And it was beautiful because over the summer that was written into their plan, and they worked together as a team to be able to put that together and get a lot of that rostered. And then they rolled it out. We rolled it out all together in August, did training for the parents, for the teachers, for the students, and then gathered their feedback. So how is it going? Is it saving workflow and efficiencies? Can you get to all of your curriculum and access all that you need? And so that was something very specific that came as a need, that there was a lot of instructional time lost because everything wasn't united in one launchpad. They went to that and they saw a lot of great benefits, both IT and EdTech, and how that impacts teaching and learning. So that's one specific initiative that I think kind of really speaks to the question that you're asking about.
Yeah, I
awesome.
feel like I'm hearing this theme between what Mike and Evelyn are saying with intention, like just having intention with everything when it comes to technology. And Pete, I don't know why, but as I was listening to Evelyn talk, I thought, oh, I wonder, I'm sure you use a lot of technology in with music, right? And even just in performing arts with, what kind of support do you get?
So the big thing a few years ago was a big iPad cart, and it was loaded with music creative apps and things like that. There's a few that I have that go through my curriculum. So I will have my curriculum on the board, and the activity will go to a QR code. I'll get their apps or their iPads, and they'll come up and scan it, and they'll go directly to that activity and be able to do it on their own. My thing is, it frustrates me when schools go out and they buy this technology willy-nilly and they just push it on the teachers and, hey, this is the greatest thing. They get that blurb in the community, look at what we're giving the kids, but then there's no support, there's no infrastructure in place to keep it running, to keep it healthy, to keep it clean. And there's stuff that just sits there and it just decays. And I was, as I've been sitting through this, I've been thinking about, I wish, yes, teaching the adults and everybody using it, but I think it needs to go even further. I think it needs to go to the kids. I think it should be a part of safety when you're talking about stranger danger and street smarts. I think we need to grow up with more respect for this, because each little thing, every little bit where we get more and more connected, that should be a deeper responsibility and deeper respect for it. So not to scare the kids, but to from early on to instill this respect for it. So when they get to our age, it's not so foreign to them. They're like, oh, okay, I know how to, two-factor and this and passwords and all. So as I've been sitting, that's running through my mind. I wish there was more support on the actual equipment end. Once they get that blurb in the media, say, look at what we're providing. But then it's like the teachers are just waiting. Like, how do we keep this stuff running? Are we allowed to do this update? Are we allowed to do that? Or, so you guys sound like a godsend for some of this. And then also, I wish they would be teaching the kids at a younger age, so it's not so daunting as they get older and they're like, oh, they just lost everything because of clicking on a link.
Or even more dangerous than that. I'm going to jump in on that because it made me think of something that one of our engineers was sent us the other day. Keith sent us this, Evelyn, that Orlando is, what was it, third in the nation for sex trafficking,
right,
of children.
We're number one here in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Are you number one? Okay, so exactly like the scariness of that then, and that really was sobering. And then that most of that, it's not like a movie, they're not like snatching them out of parks or whatever. It's the grooming, and that grooming starts on TikTok, that grooming starts on Snapchat, that grooming starts on Instagram. And so again, like that, what Pete was saying really, really struck with me of making sure that, like, yes, you've got to limit screen time and there's other things, but it's also like, you've got to make sure that they know what they're doing and that they know how to navigate, not just throw them a phone, even if you wait until they're 15 and then you throw them a phone, because now that entire world is foreign to them. And it's scary. It is. I mean, that's the really scary part is that kind of stuff, is that stuff's just out there, and it's so hard to monitor. It's so hard to control. There's so many apps that kids can use to hide things and everything else, that it's like, if they don't want you to know, then you probably won't, even if you're really, really savvy. So they've got to have that responsibility. Like, it's got to be taught to them and reinforced constantly so that they know how to navigate that safely and successfully.
Yeah. Sorry, let's go ahead.
I was just going to say, Pete, that you kind of made me think of something, and I'm certainly hoping that Mike or Evelyn can add to this, is that kind of the frustration, if you will, that we even hear from Peter, just teachers in general, right? Like, this technology is brought in, but we're not thinking about the importance of a system, right? Like having a system in place that measures efficiency and actually limits frustration, right? People don't see the connection between the importance of a system, having respect for systems, boundaries, how-tos, education, which I would assume then impacts having a positive tech culture. So I was wondering if you guys can maybe give some encouragement or some tips on behaviors and things that actually promote positive tech culture.
With teachers and students?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I agree. Even yesterday at one of our schools, they have to be continually part of the conversation. So yesterday we had 2 teacher panels and 2 student panels over lunch, because we've onboarded a new school and we wanted all those voices. What apps are you using? How are you using them? What's working? What would you like to see more of? What is the future of technology here? And really letting them know that what you're sharing now, these things matter, and they'll, it's going into this report and it's going to be going into the plan. And then we want you regularly to be giving us feedback. And that those things are being very, very intentionally, as that word was brought up, selected and used. And then things that are not being used, sometimes if a tool like ClassLink, we love that because we can pull analytics off of that. So we can see the tools that are most readily being used by teachers and students, and how long and what for and what purpose. And then ones that are not, we can look at eliminating those so that it's even less tools, but the ones that you do have pack a really, bang for your buck with teaching and learning, and they're getting a lot of usefulness with the students and the teachers. And part of what we do is every year we evaluate with a summative assessment too. So bringing them all back in and talking about it, and hopefully many more times in between that too. But I think it cannot be driven by administration, and it cannot be just driven by the tech department. If it comes from there, it will probably fail, because it's not being driven by the heart of the students and the teachers. So we've got to listen to them. They have to drive the conversations about what they need. And then our job kind of from the leadership side is to vet all of that and safely and securely manage it. So it's a lot of those different layers, but it's got to come from them, and that because they're the heart of everything we do.
Nice. Well, I don't know about Fred, Pete, and Letitia, but I feel like I could talk to you guys forever. But I'm going to get to one of our favorite parts of talking to our guests, and that's to ask you if you have a teacher, a coach, or mentor from growing up that maybe you want to kind of just highlight for us or tell us about, that either inspired you or just for some reason always, encouraged you to be maybe who you are today. So, Evelyn, do you want to go first?
Sure. The person that I immediately thought of was my high school Spanish teacher. So her name is Karen Bankston, and I grew up in Boston. So she still lives up there, and we do keep in contact. And the most meaningful thing is she took our class to Spain in my senior year. And there's nothing like truly having an experience with a teacher like that. So being in little cafes and eating churros and trying to speak Spanish the best we could. And she was an amazing teacher. So even those that were, newer to Spanish or native, and I will always treasure that even when I went off to college, she would still always reach out. And I know Mike does this so much with his students all the time. They're always still contacting him because she really said, even though I had you for this amount of time in my classroom, I'm really invested in who you're becoming in your young adult life. So she since reached out when I had children, and just really still has shown such she is so interested in how my life has developed. So I'll always treasure that. So if she gets to hear this, her name is Karen Bankston and she's up in Boston.
That's awesome. I love it. Yeah, I've always told my students, once your teacher, always your teacher. It's kind of like a contract. It's a done deal. That's awesome. Love it. Thank you for sharing. How about you, Mike?
Yeah, so I immediately thought of Kevin Carpenter, who was my high school wrestling coach. I wrestled in high school. I wrestled in college. I became a assistant coach for him. And then I took over for him when he retired, and then went back to assistant coaching for a while. I'm not coaching now. And it's the first time in like 20 years that I haven't been on a mat. It's kind of weird. But more than the actual like wrestling, like his focus was on growing us into young adults. His focus was on making sure that we were successful in life, that we were going to be good husbands and fathers and citizens. And just that was his thing. We won a countywide sportsmanship award like 3 years in a row in our trophy case. That was the centerpiece of our trophy case. So like he lived it, it was like not a regional championship, not anything else. It was that was the centerpiece. So it was, being good people, having empathy, all of those things that he instilled in us as young men and women that wrestled for him. And he's somebody that I still keep in touch with. I just talked to him on the phone a couple of days ago. He's retired now, but just a huge influence on my life. I grew up in a single mother home, so he was kind of a father figure to me, at a very impressionable time in my life. So just very, very, very important person to me.
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much, both of you.
Absolutely.
Really sweet. I love doing this because it just shout outs all the great teachers we have out. All right. So we're going to, if it's okay, kind of think about some things that either an idea for us that came about during this conversation, or maybe a new tip that we're going to start using to make sure we're having good cyber hygiene. And then you as our guest, after we're done kind of sharing some of our thoughts or collaborative ideas with you, you guys get the last word. Does that sound okay?
Sounds awesome.
Okay. Pete, why don't you go first?
Yeah, I'm going back to the street smart part, and something we now got to put in our back pocket. And it was said early on, they're always getting better. We just got to remember that they're always getting better, and just keep your guard up and respect it. Don't need to be, fearful of it, but respect it. They're always getting better. That's the number one for me. Nice.
Thanks, Pete. How about you, Fred?
So thanks for being here today. I know we could cover on this conversation into 5 points. I'm gonna have to touch base with you afterwards, because I'd love to share with you some observations too that I have that might be helpful for y'all in the future. But the 2 things you said: be suspicious. Mike, you said that several times, and I think that's you don't want to be paranoid. You don't want to be, like Pete said, fearful, but be suspicious. Don't trust everything. And then do some research behind it, right? Look it up. But I love what I said, Evelyn, that said towards the end about continually be part of the conversation, like kind of go back and involve that. I think that's very important, because there's a great exchange that goes 2 ways in that. It's not just you gathering information, but it's that conditioning. And I think that's really, really important when you're dealing with this environment, because let's not forget, we're putting these devices in young people's hands at age 3 years old at the dinner table at TGI Fridays, so they don't yell out loud. And they're looking at these things as toys. And now all of a sudden we're expecting them in 8th grade to respect it. Might not be the best way to do things. I don't know, but having that conversation allows us to be evolving things along with them, But that's what I took away from that.
Nice. Pete, TGIF.
Totally.
Yep.
TGI. Did I say TGM? TGI.
Yeah, you said no problem. Letitia, how about you?
Before I give my final thoughts, Fred, I just want you to know that my daughter let us know that our grandbaby cannot have a tablet. Because I was like, hey, so when can I? I'm getting ready to order one.
I didn't mean that. I mean, it
My
wasn't.
daughter was like, she was like, nope, she will not be getting technology until later on. I was like, okay, I guess. But anyway, I just want to start by thanking Mike and Evelyn for being here tonight and really being a tech company that leads with heart and mind. You know, it's very rare that a tech company touches your heart or thinks about people first. And I certainly got that from the website, and you guys really proved that in our time today. So thank you so much for speaking to our head and our hearts tonight. I think my favorite phrase was empowering every user. We are stronger together. The data is interconnected. And I think that's why you guys have seen such great success. And I wish you more success because you're putting people first, empowerment, and service. So best of luck. Hope you come back. But thank you. Yeah, that's my takeaway for tonight.
Nice.
Good. All right. So my half jokingly, but also aha moment was, I think it was Mike said, don't check your emails. And I wrote in the wee hours because that's before coffee. So I'm like, is that an excuse not to work? I'm sorry, boss. I can't check the emails yet, principal, because I haven't had my coffee yet. But it's so true. I mean, you do end up doing kind of those not so great moments when you're not completely awake. So good tip. But I do keep going back to this word intention with our conversation tonight. It just keeps going in the back of my head. And so I wrote down, we should purchase, use, support technology with intention. So that was kind of like my big aha from the conversations. So thankful you guys, Evelyn and Mike, came to talk with us. So I'm going to let you have kind of a last word, any last thought that you want to share or something from the conversation tonight that you just want to make sure to highlight. Evelyn, do you want to go first? Sometimes it's easier. Sorry, Mike. Sometimes it's easier if I call one of you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome. I think what stuck out to me was when Fred shared about his daughter's wedding. And when you opened with that, it set the tone that cybersecurity is about people. And this is we're empowering teachers and schools and educators and families to make really great decisions in those moments, because that's someone's beloved daughter, you know, getting married that you're proud of. And we want technology to help someone's life flourish and not harm them in any way. So the more that they're protected and empowered, the better. And so I just kind of go back to that. So many of us shared about our children, and your daughter was married. A tremendous moment in your life. And those are the kind of moments we want to celebrate. So that, I think that kind of set the tone that this was all about people tonight.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks. Okay, Mike, you didn't mean to cut you off. Sorry.
Oh, no, that's good. That's fine. P was talking about like initiatives that, you know, like schools just push something out because it's shiny and new, and then it sits there and they don't have, and I think Letitia even brought up, like, then they don't, you know, the support that comes with it or the lack thereof. And I think like that really struck a chord with me. So one thing that I would say to schools, to anybody who's, you know, thinking about rolling things out, the teachers using things, like whatever it is that like the technology shouldn't hamstring your pedagogy or your approach. You know, it's a tool. Technology is a tool. And I'm going to steal this from Dan, from my big boss, that, you know, it's something that should either make your life easier or should solve a problem. And I think that's a really good place to start, is if you look at it and you go, it's not fulfilling one of those two needs, then it's not necessarily you have to get rid of it, but it should be doing one of those things. If it's not, you know, if it's just the shiny new thing, but it's not solving a problem or making your life easier as a teacher, or enriching the lives of your students, then, you know, maybe cut it out. You know, more technology is not, you know, this is from a tech company, more technology is not always the answer. You know, it's being, again, that word intentional. It's being intentional with the technology that we use. So I think that was, you know, one of my biggest takeaways.
Nice.
That's good.
Thanks,
too.
Mike.
Awesome.
And Evelyn, if our listeners want to reach out to you all, where can they find you?
Absolutely. So we're on most of the social media feeds. So our LinkedIn is very active. And so that's going to be at EdTEch for EDU. We're also on Twitter and Facebook. And then we have a blog on our website. So that's i-techsupport.com. And we have an educational technology spot. And then we have a huge conference here in Orlando called the Orlando Learning Summit. And we just are starting to release the dates. So there'll be more information on our website, but it's going to be on July 14th and 15th at the First Academy in Orlando. So all are welcome to attend and present. And so we'd love for you to reach out to us on social for more information too.
Great. Thank you
Well,
so
that's
much.
awesome.
And
Thank
Pete,
you.
how about our listeners? Where they can they find more of us?
Right. Our website, teacherpeprally.com. Our Facebook group. We're on Instagram. Our episodes are on YouTube. Leave us a review wherever you're listening to us tonight. And I think that's about everything for now.
That
So
is. Yeah.
connect with
Yeah.
us
All
in a
right.
good way, in a clean way.
I hope everyone has a very happy Halloween. Brett. And Mike and Evelyn, thank you so much for coming on. We really enjoyed having you and giving us some tips to make sure that we are secure with our internet, cybersecurity, computers, everything. So appreciate you both.
Thank you.
It's a blast.
For all your
Thank
work
you.
you're doing.
so
Yeah.
much.
Thank you for